Hello everybody and welcome to the Human Echoes recap for Krypton Season 1 Episode 3, The Rankless Initiative. Last week, we left off with the stunning discovery that Braniac's probes were already on Krypton, and we pick up essentially right where we left off with Adam Strange and Seg-El trying to figure out what this thing is. So they get the help from Ghost Grandpa, right? And he is decoding this thing that has crashed on Krypton, and they come to the realization that it's just a shell for a smaller thing that's actually a parasite. The first thing I want to say about this scene is that Grandpa seems to know a lot about this thing that he's, I would assume, never seen before. I mean, my impression of his knowledge of Brainiac is that he pointed a telescope out there, or maybe picked up some radio waves and like found out that there was a thing out there and tried to warn people and got killed for it. In this episode, all of a sudden, Grandpa knows like way more about Brainiac than we were expecting. Maybe he just has some really good scans of this little doodad, but it seems like he's got a lot more knowledge than I thought he did. The other thing that I took away from this scene is that Seg is a little bit of an idiot because the Grandpa thinks that there's this parasite thing in here. He explains to them the whole purpose of this. It goes down to the planet, pops open, parasite comes out, takes somebody over, makes them do the will of Brainiac, all right? Does not sound like a fun time to me. And what happens immediately after he tells them that, Seg says, well, let's open it up. What? He doesn't have a plan? There's no, like, baseball bat that he's thinking he's going to hit this thing with, or, like, little cage he's going to catch it with. As the audience member, especially as someone who's seen the whole episode now, I know that this thing's not going to, like, it's not in there, right? That's the reveal of the scene. It's empty. It's gone to somebody else. But in this moment, Seg is just, like, he just doesn't have a plan. He's just like, well, let's crack it open and see this thing that's going to take over me and make me the servant of Brainiac. This is cool. It's not cool, Seg. You don't know. Again, he doesn't know anything about the fact that it's going to take a lot of time to do this, like we find out later. None of that. It's just completely boneheaded on his part. And to underscore how boneheaded it is, Adam Strange has the best, I mean, Adam Strange always has the best moments in all the scenes that he's in, but his reaction is to back away behind the Force Ghost, to which the Force Ghost replies, you get that I'm a hologram, right? Like, it's not gonna go into me. I'm a compooper, okay? The structure, though, of this episode, I have to say, really kicks off after this. So we've established the stakes of what this thing can do, and then we get a flashback to this woman named Rhom and her daughter. And Rhom is trying to earn a little extra money, and we get this very basic setup scene where for TV audience, 30 seconds, why you should care about Rhom. She has a daughter, she's poor, she's working real hard, single mom. Okay, we can send her into peril. And she goes out, and she's the one that finds this parasite. And it turns into, at least for the first half of the show, similar to one of the types of police procedurals you can have, or detective stories, which is a how catch 'em. All right, we know that she's got this thing that will infect her somehow, and Seg and Adam are sort of on the hunt to find it, but they've done the Hitchcock thing of show us the bomb that's gonna go off, and the people looking for it have no idea where it is, but it's close by. The structure here and what they've set up with the drama and the sort of tension is really good. Seg is the first one to go off, and he's like, the thing hasn't been turned in, so his quest is essentially fruitless, but we accomplish, from a story point of view, him finding out about what happened with Lyta Zod, right? There's no parasite thing up there, so he doesn't have anything to do with that, but he hears from Nyssa that Lyta had taken the fight to her commander, had taken over her legion or whatever group of, whatever they call these groups of people, the Sagittarius, and he kind of confronts her about it, and she, you know, doubles down and said, I did this because it was the right thing to do. I didn't get killed. I'm trying to help out here. And that's really all we know for sure is that he knows now that she's in charge, so he won't be surprised later. And then we get another scene with Rhom and the little sentry thing, and she's selling it. We don't have any indication at this point there's anything wrong with her. So as an audience, it looks like this thing that they're looking for is passing hands, getting further and further away. You sort of ratchet up the tension a little bit more. I liked almost everything about this first half of the episode with the way the sentry was passing hands, and we know that it's a time bomb, essentially. We know that it's a thing that we have to get to, and they're running around trying to find it while we see it moving around the city by them. The big, obviously the titular drama of this episode, though, is this Rankless initiative that Lyta Zod has worked really hard in the previous episode to not be a bloodbath, all right? She has got herself into a position of power, all right? She wants to not be just killing everybody. And part of this is personal, right? She doesn't want Seg to be involved, but I think she does legitimately have some kind of empathy for the Rankless down there and understands their plight. And the parallels here between sort of modern day terrorism fighting and Krypton terrorism fighting are abundantly clear. The idea that some of these people down here may know who Black Zero is. All right, they may know, they may have helped out some Black Zero people, or at least not turn them in right away because they don't want to be caught in the crossfire. Or, that all rings very true in the age of guerrilla warfare. And the impulse to just wipe all these people out is a very real thing, right? Like, we still deal with that today. Lots of people are like, oh, we just go bomb them back to the Stone Age. Let God sort them out, or whatever. And Lyta's fighting against that impulse and saying, we can get in there, we can befriend these people. I don't know that she's right. I really don't. I think that probably the rift between the Rankless and the sort of Gestapo-style police is probably pretty big. It might not be mended with just a cup of tea and a nice talk, but I appreciate Lyta for thinking it's possible. And Lyta, tries to reason for this approach at the beginning, but Vex overrules her. Vex is very much in favor of go, 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 kill, kill, kill. He wants results at all costs. And the reason is that the voice of Rao is really putting the thumb screws on him right now. Vex is under a lot of pressure. The voice of Rao is very insistent that this get done and these Black Zero people get taken out of the way. And there's a fan theory that's going around on the subreddit that the voice of Rao is either Braniac or one of Brainiac's minions, sort of working in the background. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess it would depend kind of how they handled that reveal, but I think right now I would rather they didn't. It just sort of from this perspective, there might be a cool way to pull it off that I'm not seeing, and when I see it, I'll say, wow, that was cool, you guys. You actually made the voice of Rao as Braniac work, but it seems kind of obvious, and I like the idea of this guy just legitimately being a religious leader. Like that feels like a cooler thing than it's some kind of false flag operation. Maybe that's just me, but I like having a lot of different conflicting things. If all of the enemies are just Braniac, that's boring to me. But we'll see how it plays out. We haven't got any reveals on that yet. And Primus and Lyta have a talk after this, and it's a really interesting look into the dynamic. Primus is not completely unsympathetic to Lyta's desire to not just kill everybody. But she says, listen, we've planned this. You have people, who are looking up to you. This is a dangerous situation. Some of these people are for sure dangerous Black Zero folks, don't warn anybody, and specifically don't warn your boyfriend that this is coming. We need this to go off. We need this operation to work, and your people need to know that they can trust you and that you're not gonna sell them out to your boyfriend. And Lyta takes that message to heart. And there's a following scene here that's also really interesting. Lyta's fiance, whose name I forget, he's cleaning out the locker of the dude that she killed in the previous episode. And we find out in this scene that those two were kind of close, that he was good friends with the guy who was the commander that Lyta killed, and he's taking it very chill. Because he seems also to care a lot about Lyta, too. I don't know exactly how romance and betrothal, binding, works in this world. We know that these are at least somewhat arranged marriages from what we've seen with Seg. But this guy, we've seen him give advice to Lyta. We've seen him take an interest in what she's doing. He seems to actually care about her. So it seems like a huge missed opportunity, honestly, because the previous episode, we just had a fight. We saw Lyta fighting with this guy, kicking him a bunch, snapping his neck eventually, and it was okay as a fight scene, right? As just like choreography and everything. But the stakes, if we had known that this guy who cares about Lyta and cares about the commander is watching all of this, if you were cutting to him more often and making, A, you would be deepening him as a character, and B, you'd be adding a lot of depth to that fight, because now it's not just, well, of course Lyta's going to win. I mean, I guess she could have lost and been left alive, but that didn't make any sense. So it felt like a foregone conclusion last episode when we were watching this fight, but now that we know that this guy cares about Lyta and the guy that she killed and is trying to balance all that out in his mind, it makes that fight cooler in retrospect. It could have been cooler in the moment if we would have spent some time establishing that these two were friends. Whatever, we can't, backseat plot writing here, but that's just something that I would have liked to done. Eventually, Strange tracks down the Sentry. Great moment where he sort of, does a hey, look over there thing. Really wonderful interaction with the guy who's running the shop. He runs off, he hides, and they get it back to the Fortress of Solitude. They scan it, and they find out that this was a little bit silly to me. The thing that fell to Krypton had a sentry inside of it, and then the sentry that was inside of it also had something that was inside of it. Both of the things that get scanned at the Fortress of Solitude are empty. All right, they get to them too late, and they know now that whoever had this at some point has been infected. This is the point where the cool ticking time bomb thing is a little bit diffused, and I was disappointed because I really enjoyed that aspect of wondering who it was and where it was, and now there is the question of which one of these people who touched it has been infected. I mean, for a minute here, Adam Strange is a candidate because he had it, but they diffused that pretty quickly because the Rankless initiative starts up. The Rankless are coming down. Lyta, before this scene begins, has given her troops a pep talk about, hey, no head beatings, all right? We're not going down there to take out our vengeance on the Rankless. We have a job to do. We are going to find Black Zero, and that's it, okay? No torture, no beating, no, killing people just for fun. And they get down there, and as they're performing this Rankless initiative, we see that Rhom is starting to turn. And there's a great moment as she's turning, there are these sort of hooded goons, which is nice that not all of the Sagittari are hooded, but some of them have the face masks, so you can really hate them. Those are the guys that it's okay to kill because they can't see their faces. They're probably not even human. But they go to collect these people. They're ostensibly just running them through a checkpoint to scan their faces because they have good face scans of all of these Black Zero people, and they're, trying to weed out who these people are. They aren't going down at least now that Lyta's involved, just to kill everybody. And she's, resisting arrest. They're trying to pull her in, and she all of a sudden just goes Hulk on him and starts throwing him around. And the moment that I love from this scene is her daughter watching her with like a smile that grows on her face, like, yeah, Mom, didn't know you had it in you. This is great. Where has this been my whole life? Of course, the bartender guy whose name I've forgotten, he realizes that things are going to go real bad real fast and runs off with her back to the place. But, we get that confirmation that, yeah, she's the one who's infected, and she goes off to do Brainiac's bidding. There's a confrontation between Seg and Lyta, and Seg has his whole, like, well, you didn't tell me, you don't trust me thing. But Lyta, like, really has some good points about, hey, like, there are bad people down here. We are trying to, like, do a thing, and if I told you, it could have compromised the whole mission. So, yeah, no, butt out, whiny dude, who's also my boyfriend. I thought that I like this confrontation. I like this conflict between them. Of course, that happens before Seg goes off to test the little sentry thing. And in the meantime, while he's off at the Fortress of Solitude, things start to get out of hand. Lyta's soldiers, despite her little pep talk earlier, are not all 100% on board with just letting the Rankless go. They've got their, anger to burn off, and the Rankless, of course, are not necessarily the most compliant people in the world. So one of them gets killed. One of the Rankless gets shot by one of Lyta's soldiers, and Lyta comes in and says, in front of all the Rankless, by the way, which I thought was a really clever maneuver on her part. If she wants to get these people's trust, she finds the person who's responsible, puts them under arrest, says, you're going to trial, which is more than, you gave to this guy. And there's a very heavy overtone of the hands up, don't shoot, can't breathe. Literally, the guy says, I can't breathe, and she says, if you can talk, you can breathe, which is maybe too on the nose, like, especially because all these people are white. Like, I guess points for trying to sort of talk about police brutality and stuff, but I don't know if we needed to actually quote the actual incident where an actual person did get killed by a cop to make that point. That seems a little bit tone deaf to me. But yes, I do get what you're saying, Krypton. I understand that police brutality and killing people that are unarmed is bad. I did understand that. You did make that point. She kind of takes care of that situation. They don't find any Black Zero people, which if they went through this entire sector and looked at every person in this sector, and they have all this technology that's supposed to, be scanning and things, I don't know how they missed them. There was only one Black Zero character that they said they didn't know who it was. There's a guy, they were looking at faces, they have face scans, and they sort of say, we know all these people. There's the head guy who they don't have a good facial recognition on, but everybody else they should have some, ability to track down. They're scanning all these people's faces. They somehow don't get them. I don't know how, but it's a real bad situation for Vex, who's getting annoyed with, also now there's a breach from this Braniac drone in their communication center. He's yelling at Lyta to go in, and in the meantime, Seg has figured out what's going on, and he went to Lyta and he said, I need you a favor. I need one of these EMP grenades. He doesn't call it an EMP grenade, but that's what it does. It takes out all the electronics, doesn't harm biological stuff. He is trying to hopefully root out the infection that has taken over Rhom and get her back. This arc in particular, I think, is really effective for Seg. I enjoyed that it made him heroic, all right? It gave him something to do. Seg is by far like the weakest actor and possibly the weakest character in the series, but when he does do something heroic, he does something heroic. He puts his life on the line. He tries to help other people. He is selfless, and when they give him a chance to do that, that's great stuff. And he's, there's an interesting parallel here because Lyta Zod is also trying to be similarly heroic. All right, she knows people in the Rankless. She understands that there is a legitimate threat down there, but she's trying to deal with a legitimate threat without destroying the people that she loves. Seg is now faced with exactly the same dilemma, essentially, in the body of one person, where Rhom is someone that he cares about, but she's been infected by this Brainiac thing. And there's a cool little parallel there between what Lyta's dealing with and what Seg's dealing with. He goes, he finds her, he has the EMP, and there's a wonderful moment here that I have to call out. It's a callback to Superman 3, all right? The living computer thing, and probably other stuff in the comics too, okay? And I'm going to talk about the comics in a little bit, but my reference for it is the movie Superman 3, which is not a good Superman movie. I will always defend it just a little bit as a comedy and kind of a parody of Superman movies within the Superman movie universe. It's not like the worst thing ever, and there's some really cool animatronic stuff at the end. Not animatronics, I don't know what I'm thinking of. Stop motion, where one of the characters is pulled into the computer and the tentacles of the wires and everything wrap around them and like suck it in. And we get a little echo of that here with this battle between the Brainiac drone Rhom and Seg, who gets choked with the wire or whatever. And the way he resolves it is the most cliche way you could resolve this, but okay. Like, I can take it. He does the whole remember your daughter thing. I know you're still in there. Fight for your life. We've seen this before, and it's not super well done here, okay? This is not, like, the most stellar example of that particular trope, but it's okay. It's fine. It gets the work done. Seg is released enough to set off the grenade, interrupting whatever Rhom was doing, but he gets back to the Fortress of Solitude and, has Ghost Grandpa scanning her, and he says essentially, I don't know that we can, like, take the infection out without killing her. And, oh, by the way, she wasn't transmitting the data with, like, the Kryptonian transmissions. She is the transmitter. Braniac already has this info, and he's on his way now. In the meantime, before that, I kind of jumped ahead because I didn't want to resolve that plot line, and we'll get back to it in a second. But Vex has the odious task now of telling the voice of Rao that not only was their mission a failure, but the only person that got arrested was one of the soldiers that was conducting the raid. Things are not looking good for old Vex, and I'm wondering, that he got set up kind of as a big bad in the first episode. It seems to me like we're coming up for the fall for him real quick, and maybe giving Nyssa a lot more power than she currently has. Nyssa is shaping up to be a little bit more of an interesting character. She's pushing for things that Vex is not comfortable with. She's maybe the brains behind the whole operation, and just sort of letting him be the front and take the flak. And think that maybe some of these ideas are his ideas, but we're getting more of that fleshed out. And I don't know what's going to happen with Vex, but it seems like he's about to at least have a real rough time. At least like a stern talking to from the voice of Rao. But we have this dilemma set up with Brainiac knowing that where Krypton is now, knowing that he wants to eat it, and, Seg having to make the decision, how do I deal with the fact that this person who I've tried to save has been infected with this thing that I may not be able to get out. Now, they're not definitive yet, and the lazy way to go next episode is just to have him figure out a way to get it out. Now, maybe, okay, if he has to go through a bunch of other stuff and, like, sacrifice other things to fix her, then it's acceptable, all right? Then I would say, okay, fine, you've earned that. But if the question of, do I kill this thing that's giving away my position even though it's the mom of somebody I love, that's the more interesting drama. I don't trust them to handle that. I don't think that this show is brave enough at this point to kill off somebody just because they have, through no fault of their own, become a transmitter to the strongest evil in the universe, as far as these people know. But that's the direction I'd like to see it go. There are a lot of questions that I have, and from a larger story point of view, and a lot of people on the Reddit threads as well were talking about this. The whole angle that we set the show up with was that Braniac is coming to Krypton because Superman will be born from Krypton and he does not want to deal with Superman. He's somehow time traveled back, and this is his, vengeance on Krypton for birthing Superman. This Brainiac doesn't seem to already know anything about Krypton. He needs this century to tell him stuff. Is there like a Brainiac original and then also a time-traveling Brainiac? Are they gonna fight each other? What is the situation with this time travel setup? Adam Strange seemed pretty definitive that Brainiac was coming, and Brainiac is coming, but obviously the original Brainiac attack, whatever it was, didn't succeed in the past, because otherwise Superman would have never been born, and Brainiac would have never had the impetus to go and time travel back to eat Krypton to stop Superman from being born. So what is going on? Krypton, can you get your story straight? I'm fine. Honestly, the story at the level of just, this is Krypton's grandpa, or Superman's grandpa, and he's dealing with some stuff, and we're on Krypton with the Rankless and the military, and we're setting up this whole society, and we have this conflict, and maybe Brainiac's coming. That is absolutely fine without the time travel angle. And if you completely botch the time travel angle, why is it here? Maybe there's something coming up that I don't know about that is going to make it all clear and make it all make sense. But as it stands right now, it seems just a little bit confusing. Like maybe they don't have all their ducks in a row. I'd love to be proven wrong, and maybe I will, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I like this episode quite a bit more than I did the previous episode. I'm glad that they've sort of found a little bit of footing at least. We're not talking about the greatest TV show in the world, but as a comic book show, it got back some drama, all right? The writing took a significant tick up from episode 2, and they've got back some of the special effects as well. I thought that whereas episode 2 was real cheap looking, this one sort of struck the balance that I was expecting to see a little bit more of between sort of what we saw in the pilot and what episode 2 was, where we get some stuff that's good looking, and then there's also, there's still those corridors everybody's walking through, and that's fine. But they seem like they've got that balance down a little bit better, so I was happy about that. And I think we're gonna keep going with this until I've burned out. I think we're keeping going with Krypton. So I hope that you guys tune in next week for the next recap. Don't forget, we're also doing the Legion recap. Legion just started up this week. The first one went up yesterday, and also on the audio feed. They're all on the same audio feed if you guys are following the audio podcast. So check that out if you're watching Legion. That show is a completely different animal. Cool looking, plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but not in like a way where they didn't mean for it to make. It's just weird. It's weird on purpose, and I kind of love it, and it kind of frustrates me because I want to know more. I don't understand it. You guys are awesome. Take care. I'll see you next week.